Welcome to Connections, a podcast from the Graymere Church of Christ in Columbia, Tennessee. Our goal is to have discussions and messages that encourage us and strengthen our faith. We appreciate you joining us. Let's keep learning and growing together. Thank you for joining us for Connections. We're grateful you're spending time with us, and we hope this is something that you can share with people who might just be encouraged by spiritual conversations. We're thankful to have with us Brad Blackman today. We're going to be talking about a lot of different things, but I just want to begin, Brad, and give you a chance to kind of introduce yourself and let us know about you and your family.
Thank you so much. I've been in this part of town for about 4 years now. We moved to Spring Hill from the Mount Juliet area about 4 years ago. So it's been really good for our family. We love it here.
Awesome. And we love, obviously, having you all at Graymere. That's been great to get to know you. And one of the reasons that I wanted us to have a conversation is because of what you do for a living. Among other things, you work in marketing and design, but just the idea of what it means to create and to be an artist. I'm one of those people who's always been impressed with art and fascinated by it, never really been able to do much with it. But I thought maybe you could just begin by telling us about kind of how you discovered that. When did you first discover art?
Yeah, I like to say that art was my first language, mainly because when I was about 2 years old, my family realized that I could not hear. And at one of those early audiology appointments where I was getting fitted for my first hearing aids many, many years ago, we were sitting in a waiting room, and, a lot of times in waiting rooms, you do a lot of waiting, and somebody gave me a piece of paper and something to draw with, and I was just doodling, and then there was a little toy fish in front of me, and I drew the fish, and my family noticed that I didn't just draw the fish, I gave it some kind of a personality. I'd captured some kind of expression that it had. So I think my just due to the fact that I couldn't hear and I had a hard time speaking and communicating verbally, learning to express myself visually, through drawing was really my first instinct to communicate.
Wow, that's awesome. And so sounds like your family was excited to discover that. And
I've always had a lot of support from my family.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that stands out to me about art and about creativity is just the way we think about the creativity we have in us as being made in God's image, and what we learn kind of on our journeys through life, whatever we're creating. What have you learned just kind of on your journey as an artist? What are some lessons you've learned along the way?
Art has it's always been a crucial part of my life. I mean, from the just understanding how to communicate, but something that I kind of came to understand very early on when I was very young was the idea of being made in the image of God, and I realized, okay, God is a creator, and you know what, I am too, and I realized that is part of being made in the image of God. And it wasn't until many years later that I have heard of this, referred to as an actual spiritual concept, imago Dei. Some people in some circles will talk about that at length, and I've realized, oh, well, that's a thing. So for me, making art is a sort of meditation, a sort of prayer. The kind of art that I do is very abstract, but it is rooted in some sort of an abstract concept, such as peace or finding balance or tension when there is so much chaos going on in the world. How do we find that? How do I find that? And in a way, it's a documentation of where I am, but it's also there's something universal in the specific. Just how there are other people going through what I'm also going through. So if I try to make it too universal, too applicable to everybody, it'll kind of miss the mark. Whereas if I said, this is something that happened to me and this is what I'm experiencing, even if it's in an abstract form, it has a resonance with more people, I think.
Yeah, I like that emphasis on the specific because people can identify with that. And I know you mentioned this as far as what kind of art you like to do, but uh, tell us a little bit about what materials do you like to use? What right now, like what are you finding inspiration in doing?
Well, it's funny. When I was little, uh, I was going to be a cartoonist.
Hmm.
Uh, I wanted to do a comic strip like Garfield or something. I remember on the playground when I was in like second grade, I would get out my markers and then uh, give people tattoos of like Garfield and Odie on their arms or whatnot. And then I would do that at church camp too. So yeah, I was
Oh yeah,
in exchange for you know money for the canteen
that's right.
at
Yeah,
camp. So
it's a good
I had a little
money
business
making
going on.
venture. I like that.
And then in middle school, I discovered comics, and I started. I was sure that I was going to go work for Marvel Comics or something. And then I realized every now and then I still think, oh, maybe I could do that again. But uh, then in high school, I started doing the yearbook. I was on the yearbook staff, and I realized, oh, this is called graphic design. So I realized I had a knack for that. So all that is to say, there's just been a long progression from uh, one art form to another. And then in college, I found painting.
Mm.
I fell in love with it, fell in love with the materials, started out in oils, and now I do acrylic because it dries faster. Um, it's but the biggest tool I think that I use right now is um, it's natural. It's the drying process. So
Hmm.
I try to reflect in the way that I paint. It's all about gravity pulling the paint, or I turn it to make it go a different way. So I try not to force too much of myself on it. I try to let go of that and allow the paint to do its own thing while kind of gently nudging it into a certain direction to
Wow.
achieve a certain mood that I'm going after.
And so in doing that, when you're setting it up or you're trying to let things settle in a certain way, you use the word mood. Is that kind of what you're thinking about? Is it like an emotion or is it something you're trying to feel? How does this make me feel? Kind of question.
Yeah, it's kind of all of the above. It's sort of a lot of my themes, a lot of my painting themes are based around um, light and dark, or um, well, so the themes are really kind of along the lines of, like I said, light and dark, but also um, ideas of contemplation and prayer to kind of take you to a sort of state where you're not necessarily here, but you may be, kind of emotionally or spiritually somewhere else.
Hmm.
So you're kind of accessing a more meditative state
Yeah.
where you're aware of what's going on here, but you're also aware. You have a broader sense of awareness.
Yeah. Well, that's, I think, powerful. And I think there's so many ways that that art is a powerful tool. And you mentioned being made in the image of God and God as a creator, and we're creating as well. So just as you think about your own creative process, as you think about that connection between having God as a creator and we're creating, what are there some connections that you've made or lessons that you've kind of learned thinking about that, thinking about how those two relate to each other?
Yeah, I see myself as a conduit for uh, what God wants to say through me. A lot of times when I start, I will begin with a prayer, even if it's just a moment of silence, or I may speak a prayer or just run through something. But a lot of the times it's just along the lines of, help me uh, bring peace to someone through this. Help me be light, because I am not the light. I think back to 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 7. I'm not the. I'm just a vessel. I'm not the one coming up with this. I'm delivering it, but I'm not. That comes from God. That doesn't come from me.
Yeah.
I just have to be open to it. And when I begin, I just take a deep breath and just kind of put myself in a blank state to kind of receive, to be a receptor for what this is. I know it sounds kind of woo woo or kind of
No, no.
a little different for some people, but that I found that that's the best way for me to get into that creative flow to, say, to remove my own ego. And
Yeah.
it's not about me. It's about uh, who I'm trying to reach, who I'm trying to serve through this.
Well, and I think that's a process that all of us can use no matter what someone is doing, whether it's their vocation or their job or whether it's something they want to do creatively. I love that idea of just pausing at the beginning of anything, but especially for something creative, thinking, okay, I want to find a way to bless others through this, and I want to have that focus. So I think that's powerful. Uh, are there other maybe lessons you've learned along the way from art, or maybe lessons that if someone else is listening to this that's like thinking about getting started in doing some painting or some drawing, I mean, what would you want to share with people in that situation?
I think, in a way, all art it's a prayer, whether you're observing something or asking. It is a contemplation of who God is, or what I can do right now. If I'm contemplating things that disturb me, what can I do about it? Or
Mhm.
uh, being mindful of who I can help, and what how can I use my gifts to be a blessing to somebody else. Uh, and it really comes back to having a sense of humility.
Mhm.
Uh, I'm always reminded of the passage from Micah 6, where God says, I've told you uh, what I want you to do. I want you to walk in humility, and uh, it's about not going after my own ego or my own success. It's am I honoring my neighbor? Am I honoring the strangers among me? Am I being a blessing? Am I walking humbly? In this world, especially in this country, I think we get swept away by ego and
Mhm.
success, and it. And the art world is consumed by a lot of ego. I mean, when you get into the capital A art world,
Uh-huh.
there's a lot of glitz and glamour and ego and success, and that's attractive to a lot of people. To go to fancy parties and drive fancy cars and
Right.
wear nice clothes and stuff. But, the best art, I feel like the best work really comes from a place of humility, whether it's in the arts or in some other field.
Absolutely. And walking in humility is not something that comes naturally, especially not at this time in the age of social media and
Yeah.
everything else. We certainly don't get a lot of that. I was interested too. You talked about doing acrylics, and I will say we'll have a link to your website too here in the show notes. But I did see a pretty cool Star Wars print
Oh,
there as
yeah.
well. So
Hmm.
you've done some Star Wars
Yeah.
illustrations or capturing some of those
Yeah.
scenes. Now I have to ask you. You talked about uh, reading comics, collecting comics. Now, if you, when you were a teenager, were going to illustrate, draw a comic, which one would you want to do? What was the one you read growing up that you thought, this is what I want to illustrate?
The Amazing Spider-Man. Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
For me, I did read Spider-Man. For me, it was Batman. I always thought it would be so
Okay.
cool to be able to draw the way some of those guys could.
Hmm.
And I did. I had a short-lived era of tracing paper and trying to learn, but I soon saw that was not the area where I was going to be able to accomplish anything. But I do want to say too, just for everyone, so they can know, you do have a show that's going on right now, or a
Hmm.
display taking place at Harding University, or your alma mater.
Yes.
And so, if you don't mind, just tell us a little bit about that. Really, where I was struck with the idea of having this conversation was getting to watch the talk you gave online. So just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Back in the summer, a friend of mine that I graduated with reached out to me. He's a professor in the art program at Harding now. And he said, "Hey, we're getting a bunch of alumni together to do a series of alumni exhibits. Would you be interested?" I said, "Sure." So we worked out the details, and my art is up now through October 10th. And the Monday I put it up, I gave a talk to uh, about 30 or 40 art, architecture, and design students
Yeah.
there at Harding. So it was great. It was, I have the talk on my YouTube channel with, yeah, it's about 30 minutes long, and it's about a lot of the same things that we talked about, but
Yeah.
in a little bit more detail and a little more targeted toward students, what,
Right.
and balancing a career with your faith and, how do you keep those in balance with each
Yeah.
other?
Well, that's awesome. I know they were blessed by that. Uh, and we will have your website so that people can check out your art. And I think too, being able to see some of those examples will help us visualize what we've been talking about as far as the mood you want to create, and how do we feel when we experience that. So I really appreciate that. One of the reasons too that I wanted to have this conversation, and then I've tried to learn more just about art and about creativity, is I had a friend of mine years ago who mentioned that there are times in the church when we might overlook some of the talents and abilities that people have, and especially in the creative arts.
Hmm.
And I think there's truth to that. It's not intentional, but I think sometimes we forget to see how we can use all kinds of different talents and abilities, and find ways to serve and to glorify God. And I think in a world that is increasingly coming up with AI tools to create things, there's something to be said for a person who creates art and being able to look at that and say, this was made by someone, and try to gain from that person's experience and that person's expression. So appreciate you being with us. Appreciate everybody joining us for this conversation. We do have the website link in the show notes, so check that out. You can see a lot of great stuff there, and also the talk from Harding. But we also just want to remind you that this hopefully is a tool you can use to share with other people. And so we'd love for you to share, to like, to subscribe, all of the things you're supposed to do for podcasts and YouTube things, just in general. I'll just say all the things, and that will cover everything. But we really, really hope that this can be a way you can be encouraged and you can encourage others. We hope that if you're looking for a church home and you're in the Murray County area, we would love for you to come and worship with us at Graymere. We'd love to encourage you any way we can, and we appreciate you joining us on Connections. Thank you for being part of Connections. We hope it was an encouragement to you. If you live in the Columbia area and don't have a church home, we would love for you to worship with us. You can find out information about meeting times, classes, and what to expect at graymere.com. You will always receive a warm welcome from the Graymere Church of Christ.